I was skeptical when Puma first told me about their new aliphatic TPU Superfoam, especially when they told me that it was not only fast, but highly durable. And while the Superfoam has delivered in the performance department, how is it holding up after extensive use? Let's talk about the Fast R2 after 100 miles. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kofuzi. I'm a non-elite runner who reviews running shoes here on YouTube. And today, I want to talk to you guys all about the Puma Fast R2 after 100 miles. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that Puma sent to me for the purpose of a review, so I did not have to pay for these shoes. However, nobody's paying me to make this video or to include their shoe in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Puma Fast R2 after 100 miles, and let's start with how I've been using the shoe. I didn't have a chance to race in this shoe, unfortunately, but I have been using it for a lot of race type situations. In other words, I've been using it for my toughest workouts and my most rigorous long runs, those long runs that have a lot of marathon effort work in them. But my absolute favorite way of using this shoe is for threshold mile repeats or any other types of threshold work where you'd benefit from that really strong sense of carbon spring and power that I'm getting from each step in this shoe. But at the same time, there's also a lot of cushion in this shoe as well. So you're getting the best of both worlds where you're getting impact absorption, but it also still feels like a very fast and bounding type of shoe. The upper furry has been very comfortable. It is a bit on the snug side, but it hasn't been crunching my toes at all. And just about the only thing that I'd warn you guys about is this little point in the back of the heel cup here. There's a little seam that runs along the back of the shoe that can be a little bit abrasive if you're not wearing a sock that comes at least over the top of the shoe. Otherwise, I've been really enjoying the fit on this one. It's plenty breathable with this semi-transparent ultra weave material that they've been using. And I think just about the only downside that I have for this shoe is it's a little bit on the heavy side. It comes in at a stated weight of 240 grams or just under 8.5 ounces, which puts it pretty much in the middle of daily trainer category. Now that we've talked about how I've been using the shoe, let's talk about how the shoe has physically been holding up. Now, I had big expectations coming into this 100-mile review because when I talked with Puma about it this time last year when the shoe was first introduced to the public, they told me that this new aliphatic TPU foam that they have is not only the lightest material that they've ever used and also the springiest material they've ever used, but it's also the most durable super foam material that they've ever used as well. They're telling us that it could get up to 400 kilometers of use or about 250 useful miles, which is far beyond what I would normally expect for a shoe in this category of premium race day product. And for me, I would say that the foam is still holding up really well. I do think that it feels a little bit different than it felt right out of the box from a year ago, but that's to be expected. Even the most durable daily training or even max cushion shoe foams are going to feel different out of the box than they do at 100 miles. But I do feel like this shoe is holding up better than most race product holds up after the course of a year of usage as it took me to get to 100 miles in this shoe. I'm still feeling a lot of that great impact absorption from the road, and I'm still getting a really strong sense of push off and decompression of that foam, that nice pop sensation that I'm looking for. Now, a lot of that is aided by the carbon fiber plate that is very springy in this shoe, but both the plate and the foam here are part of the same midsole system, and that whole midsole system is working really well here. Now, I know that creasing of the foam really isn't an accurate indicator of how modern super foams are or are not degrading, but there isn't really a lot of creasing on the foam that I'm seeing on this shoe. And the only kind of like foam degradation that I'm really seeing is from the colorization of it. Now, I think that like other modern super foams, I don't know that this foam can really take color like EVA, for example, can take color. And so it looks like part of the paint layer that's on the shoe is definitely coming off. But other than that, the foam itself is holding up really nicely. On the outsole, the Puma grip that's here is really robust and also doing really well. I feel like I've not been babying this shoe at all. In fact, some of my early runs that I did on this shoe were on dirt roads or gravel roads that were not the most forgiving and pretty rough in terms of non-uniform sizes of rocks that were on the surface. And Puma did reach out to me and thank me for even trying to test this shoe in those kinds of situations as well, because a lot of people are concerned about that exposed carbon fiber plate and how a shoe like this that's intended for road racing could handle a variety of different surfaces. Now I'll say that I probably wouldn't use this shoe for a trail race, but it's not a shoe that you have to really worry about it breaking or it being too fragile to take on anything except for some of the most pristine race-like conditions. This is a shoe that you can really beat up, and that's all that I've done with it in a variety of temperatures, in a variety of surfaces. The shoe has held up really well, and the rubber outsole is doing a fantastic job of protecting the foam that is here in this shoe. Even going to the upper, I feel like it's holding up well. It's definitely molded a bit to the shape of my foot. Again, that seam in the back is kind of starting to fray a little bit, and I think that's friction between that little seam and my sock as I'm running in the shoe, but it's not at risk of becoming undone. Everything's still holding together really well. Now, I don't plan on taking this shoe to 250 miles to fully test Puma's claims on the durability and longevity of this shoe, but based on how excited I am even in the last month to get back in the shoe to do some tough sessions and workouts, I feel like there's still plenty of life left in this shoe, and it's going to be one of the more durable premier race product shoes that you're going to be able to find on the market today. Before we wrap up this video, let's zoom out a little bit and see where the Puma Fast R2 fits within the broader Puma lineup. Now, whenever I take a look at a running shoe brand as a whole, I always like to start with the daily trainer. And for Puma, that's going to be the Velocity Nitro 3. It's got a really nice nitro foam, or a nitrogen infused supercritical foam in the midsole that makes for a nice snappy experience. It's also highly durable, both in the midsole, outsole, and upper, so it can handle being the shoe that you go to most frequently in your daily training lineup. And then for your races, that's where I would reach for a shoe like the Fast R2. That's going to sit over here on the far end of the speed spectrum. This is the shoe that you're going to save for your races and your biggest, most tough workouts. Now, anything that's kind of in between what you would use for a daily trainer and what you would use for your race day, I think that's where a shoe like the DJI Nitro 3 comes in. It's a session shoe or a training companion to your race shoes, and it's one of the best in its class at doing that, as it combines a lot of daily training features and a lot of race-like features. Now, on a day where you're recovering after a big workout or a big race, that's where a really nice comfy shoe like the Puma Mag Max comes in. It's a very tall, very squishy, but also a bit bouncy of a shoe. So it's still a lot of fun, even though it's for those days where you probably feel the least like running on that day. It's a great shoe to have, and this is a nice Puma running rotation for 2024. Now, you might be asking a question like, well, what about the other carbon plated racing shoe that Puma has, the DJI Nitro Elite 3? This is going to be an either or situation for the race option. You're either going to use the Fast R2 or you're going to use the Nitro Elite 3. They're two different options depending on what you're looking for in your carbon plated racer. This is a little bit more of a fast turnover, really powerful clawback sensation rather than a really powerful push off sensation. And that's how I differentiate these two. I have been really enjoying this for my fastest intervals and my toughest speed work sessions. Although I think overall, even though that one is much lighter, I am leaning towards the Fast R2 as my favorite between the two Puma race product options. This is a lot of shoes, 4, potentially 5 shoes to be able to sort from a rotation. I know most people don't run like that. If I were to try to reduce it down to 3 shoes, the shoe from Puma that I would eliminate would be the Velocity. I feel like for me, it's a little bit on the firm side, and a lot of the daily training tasks could be shifted over to the DJI Nitro 3. So this could be a really fun 3-shoe rotation. But because of the durability of the aliphatic TPU that's available in the Fast R2 and also in the DJI Nitro Elite 3, I think that you can really get away with a very fun and very functional 2-shoe rotation from Puma. And for that, as much as it pains me to eliminate one of my favorite shoes, the DJI Nitro 3, I think you could really do it with just 2 shoes in the Puma lineup right now. You could do all of your easy running in the Mag Max, because even though it is big and heavy and cushioned, it's still got a little bit of pep to it. So you can still use it very easily for all your daily training miles, your recovery miles, everything you use a daily trainer for. This is going to be a good option, especially if you're one of my bigger, taller friends. And then when it comes to anything that needs to go fast, you can reach for your Fast R2. And because it has that durability in that new aliphatic TPU foam, it's going to be able to handle all of your workouts in addition to your racing. And this could be a really fun 2-shoe rotation. Now let's wrap up the video by going over the buying guide, and we'll also talk about some alternatives that you might want to consider. The Puma Fast R2 is one of my favorite carbon plated racing shoes, and it's going to be a really fun option for you if you like a powerful push-off sensation from a quickly decompressing foam and a springy carbon fiber plate. But at $260, I feel like it's a touch expensive, and maybe I'm picking nits here, but I feel like it should come down about at least $10 to make up for a little bit of the extra weight that you're going to have to carry around to be in this shoe. Now there is a prior version of the Fast R, the Fast R1 or just the Fast R, but it's a substantially different shoe, and it's not really something that I would consider to be a viable alternative. So let's take a look at some other brands to see what's available as an option to also consider. Now the first shoe that I want to talk about really doesn't feel the same or similar to the Fast R2, but I think it's built for the same type of runner, and that's going to be from ASICS, and this is the Metaspeed Sky Paris. Now I feel like even though this is on the other end of the weight spectrum as the Fast R2, the Fast R2 is one of the heavier carbon plated shoes you can buy, and the Metaspeed Sky Paris is one of the lightest. I feel like the way that the plate is positioned on this shoe and then the way that the foam is being utilized here, it's also trying to capitalize on runners who really enjoy a strong sense of push off from the forefoot in their marathon shoes. So if you're kind of drawn to one, you'll be drawn to the other, even though they have very different sensations. But the Metaspeed Sky Paris comes in at $250 price point that I like for a premium race product. Now, the next shoe that I'm going to talk about, I think feels more similar to the Fast R2 in terms of the runner who it's designed for and the way that the shoe feels. And that shoe is from Hoka. It's the very underrated Cielo X1. Now, both of these shoes, I think, are targeting that same powerful stride and push-off sensation. And I think there's a lot of similarities in the geometry and the way that these shoes are built that they're trying to achieve those goals. Now, with the Cielo X1, I think you are getting even more cushion and impact absorption from the road, although I think that the push-off sensation is slightly muted compared to the Fast R2. So there's a little bit of give and take there. The other thing about the Cielo X1, which is maybe why it's not so underrated and maybe properly rated, is that the Cielo X1 is even heavier, coming in at almost 9 ounces, which puts it in Pegasus Plus territory, Noblesse 5 territory in terms of weight, and it comes in at a retail price of $275, so $25 more expensive than I really think the shoe should be. So it's a very viable and interesting alternative, but it has a lot of the same drawbacks as the Fast R2 does. But those are my thoughts on the Fast R2 and the competition that's out there. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any other questions about this shoe or any of the shoes that I talked about today, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Mondays and Thursdays over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to see you guys over there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?